Hello, beautiful soul sister, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Kiger. I'm a trauma-informed master mindset and money coach, as well as a financial expert of over 17 years. I have spent my entire adult life studying the difference between successful and unsuccessful people, and I plan on sharing all of the things with you on this journey together. This podcast is called the Soul Powered Podcast because it's my desire to share with you how to create a life that is powered by your soul, not by societal standards or what everyone else in your life tells you that you should be doing, but actually powered by your soul. The reason you'd want to do this is because I believe that this is the fastest way to unlock your portal to prosperity and become what I call the wildly wealthy woman. This is the portal that once you enter it, you gain access to the prosperity, abundance, wealth, time freedom, experiences, fulfillment that are your birthright. I don't believe that you came here to build someone else's dreams. I believe you came here to live your soul-powered life and live it to the fullest. And I plan on sharing with you exactly how to do that during our time together. So thank you so much for being here. I know we're going to have so much fun together today. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca, and I'm so excited. I have an incredible guest with me today, Hope Pedraza. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Love it. Awesome. Okay. So Hope is with us, and we are going to go down all the rabbit holes about the mind, body, and spirit connection and how this can show up in your physical life as well, and how these things manifest sometimes. And the work that she does is incredibly important to get to the root cause of these things. But you guys know that we take a holistic approach here, that healing is not just a one-layered approach. So I love that Hope also brings all of this into her teachings as well. So welcome to the show, Hope. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Rebecca. I'm excited to chat with you.
Likewise, I'm so excited to dive in. Okay, so let's start off with just telling our listeners, who is it that you help? Who's Hope, right? Who is it that you help and how do you help them?
Yeah, so I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which I know is a mouthful, but essentially I use functional labs to help get to the root cause of chronic symptoms. And in addition to that, I really do take a holistic approach, like you mentioned, that mind, body, spirit, mind, body, soul connection. And so I'm putting together the functional labs. I also use human design. I'm a human design guide. And then I use a lot of different energetic and somatic practices to help with the mental and the physical and the spiritual side. So things like I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, NLP, subconscious reprogramming, clearing the chakras, energy alignment, all of those fun things, and just put the whole holistic piece together. And so my goal, who I work with, I predominantly work with women. I have male clients and I've worked with kids before as well, but typically my client is female entrepreneurs or business owners or high performers, and just helping them get to the root cause of their chronic physical symptoms so they can have more energy for life and for business and for their relationships and just to live a more fulfilling existence.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Excuse me. And there's so many parallels to the work that we do. I just do this around money. So, how does someone know that
Yeah.
they need your help? Like, what are some of these chronic symptoms? And kind of talk me through, like, when does someone know they need to work with you?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's an important question because I think oftentimes as women we wait. I don't want to say till until it's too late, but we put it off longer than we should because we have those little nagging, annoying symptoms, things like brain fog or just chronic low energy, trouble concentrating. Maybe it's an erratic period that we're like, oh, that's normal. It's things we pass off as quote unquote normal, right? When really it's not so much that it's normal, it's just really common. And I think that word common and normal get thrown around in the same loop, but it's not the same thing. So just because a lot of people are dealing with it doesn't mean that it's normal, because we don't have to deal. We don't have to put up with the brain fog and the low energy and, migraines or headaches or anxiety, like all of these little things, which are typically things that we as women, we can power through because that's what we do. We power through and we either brush it off like I'll deal with it later, or we're just, well, I don't have time to deal with this, those kind of things. And so I, what I would love to see is more women who are really in tune with their bodies and really listening to their bodies take action now, right? And not wait until instead of two or three annoying symptoms, there's 28 annoying symptoms that now they're dealing with. And that's typically what happens because when your body is giving you a sign or a signal that something is off, out of alignment, it's imbalanced, it's going to keep telling you, like, that trigger is still going to be there, that signal, that sign is going to be, and it's going to start yelling and screaming at you, and then it will compound, right, and into multiple things. And so I recommend to everybody listening to really tune in and listen to your body. And you don't have to push aside the little annoying symptoms that you feel on the daily. Like, we can take action now to stop them from becoming bigger annoyances and bigger issues in the body.
Yeah, I think that's so important. It reminds me of like this story of where, God or the universe or whatever your belief system is, kind of will put like a little pebble in your path when you're walking, and then you kind of just, oh, it's just a little pebble. I'll jump over that. And then it's like a rock next time.
Mm,
And then it's like a boulder and you
yeah.
can't shift it, right? Because it's too big and you can't get
Mm-hmm.
around it and there's no way out. So it's like, why wait till that point, right?
That's
But
it.
sometimes we don't recognize or realize because like we really weren't taught this stuff, right? If
Sure.
you think about it, like no one was taught to listen to our bodies. As a matter of fact, probably the opposite, that we were told
Mm-hmm.
to, ignore those symptoms, ignore our feelings, if there's food left on the plate and you can't waste it, so you have to eat
Mm-hmm.
it even though your stomach's full.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's so much conditioning around that. Is that kind of one of the very first things I'm assuming maybe you start to address with your clients, or how's that working with like them starting to gain awareness to
Yeah.
why they're showing up this way?
Yeah, yeah. The awareness piece is huge. And you're right. I mean, first of all, we weren't giving a manual for our body. So it's like, we're all in this together, learning how it works, it functions. And then also, as women, yeah, I mean, I think, we live in a very masculine society, right? Which is all about go, go and push and more and force. And in that paradigm, in that structure, yeah, we're not taught to, oh, let me stop and listen to my body. And what is my body telling me? Like, that's just not, it's not part of it. So being in this kind of masculine construct of, especially in like the business entrepreneurial world, like it's just, yeah, it's just not, it's not part of it. So yeah, I think the awareness piece is a huge piece. And the first step really is just learning to listen and tune in and hear what our bodies, because the thing is, I think sometimes, women are like, oh, well, I don't really think my body is telling me. No, it's telling you something. It's either A, you've like shut off the signal, so you're completely ignoring it, or you're just not taking the time or not taking the space to listen. And I think the majority is probably the latter. I think most women, they're hearing it and they're recognizing it, but they're just not taking the space to really listen. Like, what is it trying to tell me? Or just the space to just deal with it. So I think it's the awareness piece is huge, but I really think more women are more aware of it than they think they are. I think the biggest thing for them is just, I'm gonna deal with it now. I'm gonna stop and deal with it. I'm gonna take the space and make that a priority and intentionally address my well-being.
Yeah, like what do I do with this awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that
Yep.
a lot of times, like I know in my own life, that it's just been the space has been huge, like just taking the
Mm-hmm.
space because we are in a society where it's go, go, go all the time, hustle, grind, and it's difficult sometimes for us to take the time and pause to actually just, I know sometimes it can be a lot. We're women wearing all of these different hats. We're mothers, we're wives, we're sisters, we're friends, we're business owners, we're entrepreneurs, we're doing all of these different things. And sometimes it can just feel like that one more thing that's like
Yeah.
added to my
Yeah.
plate, one more thing that's falling apart, one more thing that's not
Mm-hmm.
working right. And
Yep.
so if someone's in that position where maybe there are some things that are coming up and they're experiencing these symptoms that you're describing, but that's how they feel. It's like one more thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What words of encouragement or what advice would you have for them to the importance of, like you
Yeah.
said, like pausing now before it gets, to the point where now we've got to unwind a whole lot more.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think first of all, I get it because I've been there too. Where it's like I don't have time to deal with this. Like you just, I totally get that, and just the initial overwhelm of what all is that going to entail? I'm going to have to. I totally get that. The thing that I always tell my clients is the health of your business is only as good as the health of your body. Like, your body
Yeah.
is building your business, and if your body is run into the ground
Mm.
and like screaming for dear life, your business is going to be doing the same thing. And so I think that's the important piece here, is to understand that your body is this vessel that is going to bring your business or your vision or your mission to life. And if it's not functioning at 100% or at least close to it, like optimally, then there are going to be limitations, right? With how big your vision and your mission, your business get to grow. I mean, that's bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's a really good perspective because then it really shows like the consequence of inaction, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it does feel like one more thing to do, one more program, one more course, one more but at the end of the day, I think that so many of these things that because there's so many incredible people out there like us, right, who are helping people. And I really feel like it's when it's your time, you will know it's your time to work on these things. And the more that you
Mm-hmm.
ignore it, of course, it can exacerbate. But like when you know that your body's calling for this, when you know there's something there for you, like lean into it because, like you
Yeah.
said, there's a lot of things that can happen under the surface that will, I mean, the work that I do is a lot around like the nervous system and that lives in the
Mm-hmm.
body too, right? So it's
Yep.
like I
Yep.
totally get it. So I'm assuming that you have your own story around like what brought you here and why you're so passionate about this. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? Like what
Yeah.
was your journey to getting to this place and why are you so passionate about your work?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's kind of a multi-layered path that took me here. I grew up with a lot of gut issues as a kid. I had IBS for years. I was in and out of hospitals and doctors and colonoscopies. I mean, I had half a dozen colonoscopies before I was probably 14 years old. So like just in and out of doctors trying to figure out what the deal was. Now, granted, I was also perfectionist, type A, had disordered eating behavior. Like there's all these other things that nobody was attributing to what my gut was doing at the
Of
time. And,
course.
of course, now hindsight's like, oh, well, duh. Like, of course, my gut was a wreck. So there's that piece of it. And then also, as I went into my entrepreneurial journey, I brought all of that with me. And, I had done some healing on my gut itself. And I was like hardcore plant-based for 10, 12 years. And that really did a lot to help heal my gut. But when I talk about root cause, the real root cause of that programming that was still going on under the surface was still there. So yes, I did some healing in my gut and healed and fixed a lot of that, but a lot of that programming still existed. And that led me to full on burnout. And so when I was going through my becoming a functional practitioner, you have to run all the labs and stuff on yourself. And that was really the big wake up call for me because yes, I could have sat there and just like we were talking about the women who were like, oh, I don't have time to, oh, it's nothing, or there were things happening that I was just like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I feel good. I'm healthy. I eat healthy, exercise all the time, blah, blah. Well, when you do the labs, it's like, okay, I have empirical data on paper. Like I can't ignore this. My adrenals were like in the toilet, barely producing any cortisol. Like my gut, like, there's so many things. There's so many things. So for me, that was the big wake up call where I was like, okay, this is bad. Like this is really bad. And I kind of started putting pieces together like, oh, that's why I've been getting sick all the time. I was getting injured all the time. And my brain, I was irritable. There are all these things. So I mean, basically had to build my health back up from the ground up with knowing like because you get to the point where you can't keep going like this. And that's where when I saw it on paper, I'm like, okay, I've been going for a while. Is our bodies are great. Our bodies are they adapt, right? Our bodies adapt. But there is a limit, right? And I didn't want to test the limit. Like, what is the limit? At what point is our body going to be like, oh, I'm done. So I realized, like, okay, I've got to take ownership and leadership because I think that's the other piece for, high performers and entrepreneurs. Like, there's a level of leadership required to be like, okay, I'm going to take ownership of this. I'm going to do something about it and not sweep it under the rug like I've been doing. So I took took that that stance of leadership and decided I would rebuild and then I think as I started rebuilding my health, I kind of put all those other pieces with there's a lot of, inner work to do and inner child work and reprogramming and subconscious, all of that work kind of all played a part in the healing part too. But yeah, I just recognizing there's a lot that goes into the healing process outside of like, let's, check your diet and take the right supplements. Like there's a lot more besides those physical things that are required to really build balance and vitality and longevity in the body.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. And I can totally resonate with what you're saying and being in the adrenal fatigue and all of the things. And I'm sure that was like a big wake up call to be like, okay, yeah, this doesn't look too great, right?
It's not
So
good.
as you were talking and struggling with those things as a kid, like man, that had to be really tough. And I'm just thinking that there's probably so many people who are, because most of our listeners are individuals who are, entrepreneurs and type A and like all the things. So do you see some commonalities? I'm guessing, as you mentioned with the gut issues and things, like what are some of the commonalities that you see with those specific individuals that are maybe some chronic issues that come
Mhm.
up that there's like a through line? Because I'm
Mhm.
curious. I probably would be one of those people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think everybody listening is going to fall on the spectrum on, some of this. Yeah, I mean, the gut stuff for sure. And I think, you know, that type A perfectionist personality is more prone to gut issues, more prone to anxiety. And I can't say anxiety was anything like, at least clinical anxiety. Like that was never a thing for me. Really, it's more of the gut. It's just that constant pressure to do everything and do it all perfectly and have it like that. I mean, you can imagine the pressure that puts on your body in general, but the gut stuff is very common for that type of person. Anxiety, the person who has their worth tied into productivity and pushing and doing all the time, chronic fatigue, immune system issues, anxiety, brain fog. I mean, those are probably the most common. I think the most like overarching common theme, like the clients I work with, there's a laundry list of things that they're dealing with. But I would say 99.999% of the time, the energy thing is always a thing, among other symptoms, but it's always the chronic fatigue. Just I'm tired all the time. I go to sleep and I feel like some people either feel like they slept okay, but they wake up and they still don't feel rested, or they don't sleep okay, or there's energy crashes throughout the day, or they get to the end of the day and they're like, I could fall asleep right now and sleep till next Tuesday. So the chronic fatigue, just low energy thing is super common. And if you think about it, we're dialing into that masculine structure of doing, like you're talking about the hustle thing earlier, right? If we're constantly hushing and put, like, of course we're gonna like we're not meant to operate. We're not designed to operate that way. So the chronic energy thing makes complete sense. That the majority of women out there are just dealing with like I just feel dang tired. Like that's
Mhm.
just yeah, very common.
Yeah, that was so me before, and then I started like I'm sure that you probably teach or work with some form of this if you're working with women, but like I started to sync my cycle and realize like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so my business, like we're not like men. We're
Exactly.
not.
Yep.
And our hormones don't show up in the same way, and we physically cannot push ourselves to the same degree that they can, but society is, like you said, kind of really just catering to that more
Yeah.
masculine structure, which is it is what it is, but we're learning how to adjust.
Right.
And we're teaching ourselves, which,
Mm-hmm.
that's why we need people like you. And I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who probably feel like they've been dealing with these things and have been dismissed by the medical industry and told that everything's fine, everything looks good. Do you see a lot of that where
Oh my
there's these
gosh.
phantom symptoms that like no one can figure out what's happening?
Yes. Yes, the medical gaslighting thing, like I could talk for hours just on the whole medical gaslighting thing. And it's not even just like let me stand on my feminist soapbox. Like this is like
Right.
there have been
It's
articles
real.
and studies and like this is a real thing. There are statistics to show how much women are brushed aside. And I mean there's data to back it
Wow.
up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean honestly, it's probably 9 out of 10 of my clients have dealt with that and that's why they've come to me. It's like, I've done the labs with my doctor and they're telling them like I don't feel right, like I don't feel good, I want to feel good. And it's the answers are given are, hey, you're just getting older. I hate that one. Well, it's just your hormones. And then it's like the only option they're given is like, oh, take birth control or something, like, which is not, this is not a solution. It's just anxiety and they just want to give you anxiety medication. Well, I want to fix the anxiety. I don't want a band-aid, right? Or it just is what it is. I mean, they have no answer for it. And so it's just like that's it. So, oh my gosh, like I cannot tell you how common that is. And it's so frustrating because especially the women I work with, like we want answers. Like I don't want a band-aid solution. I don't want you
Yeah.
to just tell me like I want to know why and I want to do something about it. Like I actually want to fix it. So it's so common. And I think it's so unfortunate also because not all women have the wherewithal to keep seeking answers. They think that, well, that's it. Like the
Yeah.
doctor told me that this is it, so this is it.
Mhm.
And or they're given, or even worse, they're giving a diagnosis and that's the end. Like doctors, the majority, not all of them, not all of them, but the majority of them, it's like they give the diagnosis and it's like, period, the end, that's it. Like there's no, let's get different opinions, let's dig deeper into why. It's just, that's it. So then now they've labeled themselves with this diagnosis and they don't know what to do about it and feel like that's the end of the road for them. And I just have to live with it and deal with it. And it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's very sad because I know exactly what you're referencing, and it's working. I mean, I'm not even in this field, but I hear a lot of people, talk about this stuff, right? Where it's such a shame. And, we obviously know that there is a system that is, if you just follow the money, you can kind of see
Hmm.
what, and without going too far into that, I think that, yeah, a healthy person is not a patient for life. So we understand kind
Right.
of the reason behind a lot of this stuff,
Right.
but that's why it's also super important to have people like you who do this and get this message out because people probably don't know where to turn and they're not
Yeah.
sure of like what their next step. And like you said, maybe they're just trusting, okay, this guy is in a or woman, is in a white coat and like they
Hmm.
have all of the answers and we were
Right.
taught from a young age to like give away our power to those people
Yes.
and to teachers and to really everyone, right? That this is
Hmm.
authority. But I think it's just realizing that, yeah, we do have that inner authority as well, which I think is important. And you do the human design work and like obviously you're in
Mm.
the spiritual side of things as well, which I think is incredible. Because if that voice is telling you that no, like something is wrong here, you need to
Then it
like
is.
go and
Yeah.
get this looked at. Go seek it out. Find someone to support you in this because that inner voice and that intuition it's always going to be leading you down the right path. Now, what
Mm.
that path is for you is up to you, but realistically, like I hate to see, yeah, we're still in this society in 2025 where people will ignore that voice to listen to
Yeah.
the authority of someone else. So we're just here normalizing that conversation, right? And just
Yeah,
saying that it's
exactly.
okay to seek out another alternative.
Yes, advocate for yourself. And like you said, I mean, it's taking your power back because it is, I mean, it's completely disempowering to like to hear the diagnosis or get the whatever it is. And like it is, it's taking your power back. And no, now I'm going to do something about it. And that's really, I mean, even, I talk about doctors, like conventional medical doctors, but even I've had people who work with other functional practitioners who, yes, they're trying to get to the root cause, but it's still just the physical root cause. Like they're doing the labs and they're doing, the same physical parts that I'm doing, but then it ends there. And I am of the belief that everything happening on the physical body has this energetic, emotional root cause. And it's
Yeah.
just like my IBS story. Like, yeah, I did a lot of work to heal my gut, but that underlying programming of that perfectionist type A hustle, all that crap was still playing in the background. So it still was affecting my physical health. So, yes, you can do the work on the physical body and you can do the work to help heal those things that are happening in the physical body. But if you have not gone under the surface at that like DNA programming level, the
Yeah.
majority of the time, I dare say every time, like those symptoms or some other symptoms are going to pop back up because you haven't really gotten to the root cause, that energetic emotional root cause.
Yeah, I love that you take that approach because I know my one of my very first spiritual teachers or mentors, he said, and I'll never forget, he goes, when there's damage on one body, that there's damage on all the bodies, right? So we're talking about the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. And
Hmm.
I never really understood that, right? Until I started to really decouple all these things in my own life and like, oh yeah, this is how it works. It's all tied in. We're not separate, right? The mind, body, and spirit connection is not like
Hmm.
the mind lives in the body, right? And our spirit is tied to the body, like with our aura. So it's really important to take a look at that holistic approach. So can you kind of give us an example because what you do is unique, right? And there aren't a lot of people I think that are taking that holistic of approach. So give us an example of like what would it look like to work with someone like you, or maybe even a
Mhm.
client that you've worked with, and like how are you taking all of these modalities? Because I know sometimes I'm the same. It's like I've got all these different things that I can use, right, to help someone release their money blocks, but like how does it actually work?
Yeah. Tying it all together. So the first thing I'm doing with clients are the labs, like the functional labs. I'm doing the labs. And really it's a people want answers. And I think that's one of the really empowering parts is like I just want to know what's going on in my body. I want to know. And I think a lot of women they want to name it. Like I can name it like, oh, it's my adrenals or it's my thyroid or whatever. Like they can name it that it's on paper. We don't have to guess, we don't have to wonder, we have it on paper. So I always do the labs first. From there, we have the labs. I'll develop a protocol with some, nutritional things, intentional supplementation, detox things, lifestyle changes, right? We come up with like a protocol for the physical body. But from there, then it's the deeper work. So then I'm going to tie whatever we see on the labs, we can tie that into a human design. And so I'm looking at human design, and then I can tie, and looking at parts of your chart, like the main pieces like your type and your authority, those kind of things, but then also looking at your centers, right? Undefined versus defined centers. And if there's specific things, so, say it's an adrenal problem. Okay, we see problems with your adrenals on the lab. So let's look at your root center. Your root center is tied to your adrenals, right? That's the organ system that's tied to the root center. So looking at if it's undefined versus defined, then we can look at, okay, what programming is going on that's causing my root center to be overactivated or underactivated or whatever. So we can tie those pieces in. And then we can bring in the subconscious reprogramming and the energy healing and all that to kind of decondition and deconstruct and rewire whatever the programming is that's causing that to be playing in the background that's leading to these physical things happening on the body.
That's really cool. I love that. I'm like fascinated by it because
Yeah, it's
because
super
like
fun.
it is, it's really cool, and it's just interesting because yeah, I've never really had someone who's taken like such a similar approach to the way that I do things, but you just do it in health. Like I just love it.
Yeah.
Like I'm like geeking out on this, so it's really cool. So maybe give us an example of like someone that you worked with and like
Yeah.
what kind of transformation did they experience as a result of going through this process with you?
Yeah. I have so many stories. I have the story I like to tell just because it was one of the first ones where I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff works. This gal I
Love
was
those.
working with, I know, this gal I was working with, she's a coach, she's a business coach, and she came to me with hormonal things, right? She couldn't lose weight and she had energy stuff going on. She was kind of bloated all the time. It was nothing major, like she was functioning fine, but was of the mindset like, I want to be optimal. And those are the people I love working with. Like, I don't have anything really seriously going wrong, which I can handle that. But I love women who are like, I just want to be great. Like, I feel good, but I want to feel great. Like, I love that. So just go. So we do the labs and everything, and we're noticing, okay, there's some mineral imbalances going on. There's some gut stuff. There's clearly some hormonal things going on. And so, we're doing the physical work. So the big blah moment happens when I call them quantum healing sessions. So we're going to a session and we're doing, we dove into her human design and we're going to this session to do subconscious work and identify where emotions are stored in the body, that kind of thing. And so we're in this session and I'm asking her, where the resistance is in her body. And very specifically, she identifies her leftover. And I've never had anyone be that specific. Like that's very
Wow.
specific. Leftover. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so she's identifying what it feels like. It's like a nail. And she's, describing the feeling and blah, blah, blah. So the emotion tied there that she realizes is shame. So we go through the process and this is another rabbit hole it could go down for hours. The shame piece is also a super common one that comes with my clients. Shame is an emotion that lives in the sacral center. Your sacral center is tied to your reproductive organ. So it's no
Mhm.
coincidence that so many women deal with fertility, reproductive issues, hormonal
Wow.
issues. Like this is a thing. This is a thing. I'm
Ugh.
saying it's a thing. It's a theory, but I don't think it's a theory. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she identifies this emotion and we go through the whole release process. There's tears, there's this release, whatever. 2 days later, I get a text from her telling me she's in the hospital. And she said, well, I had a cyst rupture. Guess where it was? And her left ovary, literally her left ovary. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like, okay, I'm sorry you're in the hospital, but you just had the biggest release ever. Like, so when I say these things, yeah, that was my
Wow.
reaction. My jaw was on the floor. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So that was the first moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like this stuff is real. Like this is real. Yeah, this is powerful stuff.
Yeah, because I think that it's so crazy because we haven't been trained to trust ourselves or programmed to trust ourselves, like quite the opposite, like we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
So it's so interesting when you start tapping into your own gifts as a coach and a healer and a mentor, like and all of those things. And then it starts working and you're like,
Yes.
that just
Got
came
something
from
here.
like that came from my brain and I just said
Yes.
it and then it was like right. And you're almost like, holy crap, I don't even know. And you start to access your own power even as a coach
Yes.
because and then it also really simultaneously allows your client to see like, no, you were the one who
Exactly.
figured that out. So you're actually the one
Exactly.
who has the power. I'm just the
That's
guy.
it. That's it.
And
That's
it's
exactly it.
freaking incredible, right?
That's it.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, and I think that's the part that I think is so underestimated and maybe undervalued, probably underestimated more is like you said, you have the power. Like we have, and I tell my clients that, but I think, yeah, sometimes you do need a guide to take you along there, but like you have everything you need to heal your body. And I know that
yeah.
can sound like fluffy and frou-frou or whatever, but it really is true. Like all it took was me guiding you to that place for you to identify her, for her to identify this is where this emotion is. It's ready to be released. My body is safe to release it now. And then boom, like all the and the chain reaction of things after that, like her and her husband, they're about to have a baby. Like she was able to get pregnant and
Oh,
her business started blowing up. Like it was all these things happen after that. It was just that was the catalyst, and she just needed somebody to guide her there, and then she had the power to do it.
yeah, because it's not everybody knows the questions to ask either. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
coaches, we have blind spots. We have things that, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So it's not that you don't have the power. Maybe you're not asking the right question, or maybe you're not, seeking out the right kind of support. Whatever it is, you don't
Hmm.
always know what you don't know.
Right.
So I think that, yeah, to your point, like it's important to have people around that can help you. And that's such a
Yeah.
powerful story. And thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely like so fascinated by this. So let's talk about where someone can find you because I know that there's going to be people who like really want to learn from you, learn more about you. I know you also have a podcast, right?
We
But let's
do.
talk a little bit
Yes.
about where people can find you and if they want to learn more about your work.
Yeah, for sure. So I do have a podcast. It's called Hopeful and Wholesome. So if you're into just learn all the things and jam with me on the podcast, it's all health, wellness, spirituality, inspiration, all things for high performing women. So you can find me there. And then my Instagram is at the Hope Pedraza. I'm most active there. And then my website is hopefulandwholesome.com.
Oh, I love it. Okay, and how are you currently working with people? Like, what are your offerings? Are you working with people mostly one-to-one? Do you have groups? Like, how are you actually
Yeah.
working with people now?
Right now, it's mostly one to one. I have some group things coming down the pipeline, but right now it's one to one. And I mean, that's really, I love the one to one connections and being able to get one on one sessions and have like these powerful breakthroughs. So right now it's one on one. And I have different levels. Like there's people who want like the long term, give me the big thing. I want all the things. And then I have people who are like, just give me the couple sessions and help me out. And then they go on their merry way. So lots of options.
I love that. Awesome. Okay, so do you have any parting as we kind of land the plane? Any parting thoughts? Anything kind of coming through that really, if someone is like, okay, I really think that I need this, I need to start prioritizing this and look into this holistic approach and really working with my physical body, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think my words of wisdom would kind of going back to what we were saying earlier is just listening to your body and not only listening to your body, but trusting your body. Because I think it's one thing to listen to it, but as we said earlier, we've been trained to kind of question it and doubt it when we're told that nothing is wrong, when we feel like something is wrong. So I think it's listening to your body and trusting your body, and then being your own advocate and taking ownership for what your body is asking you to do for it, and following the breadcrumbs with where your intuition is leading you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because we really do only get one of these physical bodies. I think
Mm.
a lot of times we think like, oh, nothing bad is going to happen to me and like I'm going to be the one who's immune to all of the things. I'm actually listening to a book right now by Mel Robbins. It's the Let Them theory and she
I'm
says there's
reading
studies around.
that one
Are
too.
you? It's the
Yes.
best. So guys, listeners, if you are open for an audiobook or even, I just listen to everything Mel
Yeah,
Robbins. Like
me
I
too.
don't
I do
read. We
too. I'm
listen.
listening to it too.
We we listen to her because she's incredible, but
Yeah.
it's the let them theory and it's so good. But she literally is just talking about how we all just kind of think that we'll be the exception to like these worst case scenario things. And when she said that, I was like, that's 100% me, because you're going through
Mhm.
life and you're just, I'm doing things and I have goals and I have like this tunnel vision sometimes that I'll get myself into. And I'm like, when I heard her say that, I'm like, okay, maybe I should start to prioritize some different things,
Yeah.
which I do. I prioritize my health and I do work with like an energy healer and things, but it's just, it's really pausing for a moment and making sure that like I'm covering all my bases and I'm looking at
Mhm.
all of those aspects of my life, because sometimes we can be tunnel vision, if we're
Yep.
just working on our business and trying to make money, or we're building a family, or whatever it is that you're doing in your life right now. Don't ignore the other aspects, right?
Right.
Like we
Right.
can take a holistic approach and work on more than one thing at a time, and not from a place of overwhelm or feeling like we, have to and we've got to have all of these things on our place, but it's like I love myself enough, right? Like it's coming from
Mhm.
a self-love place to say I'm going to get the support that I need because I want to sustain the business growth. I want to
Exactly.
sustain the life that I'm creating, and I know if I do this from a place of burnout, that isn't going to happen. So
Mhm.
I think it's really important just to realize, yeah, that like the voice that's saying, oh, this will never happen. And like, it's not going to get that bad, or I'll catch it ahead of time.
Mhm.
Don't listen to that one, because it
Yeah.
sounds like many of us have this, and there's studies around the fact that like, yeah, even people who don't think that bad things are going to happen, they sometimes do.
That's
So
it. Yeah, that's it. Well, and just like me, like I felt like I was a really healthy person. Like I eat really healthy and I work out at the time, and my adrenals and my immune system were like, okay, watch out. Like it's, yeah, you just, yeah. And like you said, we get one body, and and I know this is very cliche, but really, if you don't have your health, you have nothing.
it's
And so
so
I
true.
think your well-being has to be priority number one. You can't take of any care of anybody else, much less your business, if your well-being is suffering. So it's I really feel like it's the thing we have to put first is our well-being.
Yeah, I really believe that too. I think it's so, so, so important. And I love this. And I've just been fascinated by the conversation. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and just for sharing so vulnerably today. I really appreciate it. And as we land the plane, any final thoughts, anything that you want to share before we go?
Y'all can check out, I think I sent you the link. Y'all can check out my Energet, my holistic energy detox. So y'all can check that out in the show notes and use the promo code. And that is one of my favorite things that I've created because it really is so holistic. Because I talk about the physical body, we'll talk about the liver and all those detox organs. We talk about the mental and the emotional body. So it's just a perfect way to get started with being intentional with your well-being.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we'll link
Yeah.
everything in the show notes for you guys. Definitely check out Hope. You can see how incredible she is, and she's super passionate about it. And I just love it. I love the work that you're doing. So thank you again, Hope, for being here. And
Thanks,
thank you all
Rebecca.
for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Soul Sister, thank you so much for tuning in to this entire episode today. If you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor and leave a quick review? This allows me to reach more people, and if you found value, I know others in your life will too. Also, be sure to share this episode on social media along with your biggest takeaways so I know what resonates most with you and I can keep the good stuff coming. And if you're looking to dive into a deeper connection than this podcast will allow, consider checking out my Rise to Riches experience in the show notes below. I would love to hear how these messages have helped you take one step closer to living your soul-powered life and becoming the wildly wealthy woman. Sis, let's continue to rise together. I'll see you next time. Bye.